10 years. I can't believe it, the time has flown so quickly. I didn't join the station until 2014, which marked for me the start of a roller coaster ride covering all the major world news stories. From that time, I went to Ukraine to cover the start of the conflict there. There was the terrorist attacks in Paris. Fast forward to the Trump era, when I covered two major summits between Trump and Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, in Hanoi and Singapore. I also covered the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection in Washington, and more recently the conflict in Ukraine, which was a profound story for me to cover, documenting the tragedy of that country and portraying the lives of ordinary people affected by conflict in Ukraine. The reason why I enjoy working for Arise News is that well, first of all, what you see on camera or in the studio is not just the product of my efforts, it's also the efforts of talented producers, directors, tape editors who assemble reports for me, all of those talented people in Lagos and Abuja. The other reason is that Arise News is very much a pioneering station, which means that everyone's making maximum effort to make things work. There's an excitement, there's a joie de vivre about Arise News, even almost 10 years on now. And thirdly, the main reason, I suppose, as a journalist is that I appreciate the trust that management and the chairman put in me as a journalist to assemble a story in my own way and to give objective coverage. In other words, they value my judgment to tell the story properly. So, for all those reasons, I enjoy working for Arise News. Here's to the next 10 years and beyond.
Good morning out there. You're watching the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati.
I'm Ayo Mairo Essing.
And I'm Rufai Essing. We've all got shades of blue this morning, and we've got a great show lined up for you for the next 3 hours. So sit back, relax, and let's kickstart your day, because the morning show begins right now.
The Supreme Court of Nigeria yesterday declared Senate President Ahmad Lawan as the authentic candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, for Yobe North Senatorial District for the 25th February general election. The court made a declaration in a 3-2 split judgment of its 5-member panel led by Justice Sentus Nweze. The majority judgment held that the decisions of the Federal High Court in Yobe and the Court of Appeal in Abuja were perverse and must be set aside. The APC had challenged the judgments of the lower courts, which affirmed Bashir Mashina as the candidate of the Yobe North Senatorial District for the election. It urged the Supreme Court to nullify the 2 previous verdicts and legitimize APC's National Working Committee's forwarding of Mr. Lawan's name to INEC as the flag bearer for the 2023 poll. Joining us later on this show to analyze the APS court ruling is Abiodun Jelili Owonikuku, a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Moving things along, we shall be engaging Ibrahim Aminu Daniya, Public Relations Officer of the People's Democratic Party's Caretaker Committee in Kano State. also a former special advisor to the Kano State Governor and Minister of Mines. He will be talking about the economic policies of the PDP leading up to the 2023 election. Also joining us on the show is Professor Rukewe Ugumba, APC chieftain and professor of family medicine. She'll be discussing the campaign activities of the All Progressives Congress in Delta State and their support for Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidential candidacy in the forthcoming general election.
Well, let's catch up on news making headlines across the globe. While Ruth Sudiri will update us on the Africa business activities across the continent, Aaron Lakirjala will be taking us through sporting activities across the globe. We'll also review today's newspaper with Arise News analyst Emmanuel Afeni. While Ojiok will fill us in on what's trending around the world. It's going to be all that and a whole lot more today on The Morning Show. Welcome back to The Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has described the verdict of the Supreme Court that affirmed him as the rightful senatorial candidate of the All Progressive Congress for Yobe North as democracy at work. The Senate President said the credit for victory should go to the APC at his constituency, who insisted that there should be an appeal at the Supreme Court. He commended the judiciary for the verdict, saying it will strengthen Nigeria's democracy. In the lead judgment on the case upheld by 3 justices against 2, Justice Santos Uwezi had faltered the approach of the claimant Bashir Machina in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court Damaturu Division by way of originating summons without oral evidence to prove the allegations of fraud. But the minority judgment of the 2 other justices upheld Machina's earlier victory. The Supreme Court is currently generating wild controversy. Judgment, I should say, is generating wild controversy across the polity.
Voters across the country and beyond who showed interest. I didn't, as a person, as an individual, go to the Supreme Court to seek for a redress. But my party did, and my people, the people of Yobe North and Yobe State generally, and many political associates and well-wishers and supporters across the country and beyond, who showed interest that there has to be an appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter. So today, this victory is for all of us involved. I am the symbol, but the victory is for our party, the APC, and for democracy.
All right. A lot to chat about, Ayo.
Oh, yes, a lot to talk about. Interesting times. It's a season of elections, and cases like this are not unusual. In some cases, lamentable, as you mentioned, that a number of Nigerians or the polity has been quite, shall I say, divided. Some people speaking for, some people speaking against. So that judgment was delivered by Justice Santos Uwezi of the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the apex court, the arbiter in the land. However, I'd like to just take us through the journey to, leading up to this moment that we've gotten this judgment by the Supreme Court. So in very late terms, I'll describe the journey. So on the 28th of May, the APC conducted its senatorial primaries in Adamawa. Now, Bashir Machina was the only candidate up unopposed because Senator Ahmed Lawan had written a letter to the party to indicate his withdrawal since he was pursuing the presidential, the presidential candidate to the primaries, which was held on the 8th of June. Now, being unopposed, Machina emerged as winner, and Senator Ahmed Lawan lost the presidential elections on the 8th of June. According to reports, on the 9th of June, a runoff election was held by the party in which Senator Ahmed Lawan emerged as winner, and this was the genesis of the challenges because Machina had then taken the APC to court, asking them to declare him or to send his name to INEC as the candidate of the APC for that senatorial district. So in terms of the responses from, with regards to the judgment, people have said that unfortunately, like we talked about yesterday, in terms of Nigerians and the lack of trust for processes, we can, I mean, the Supreme Court has ruled, and without the details, I know in the coming days, and we have an interview later on, would discuss in detail and dissect this judgment. However, where Senator Ahmed Lawan, as you saw in the video, was praising the judgment as, and him saying that this is a symbol of democracy, the court has ruled. Unfortunately, for a number of Nigerians who do not see it as that, because particularly for those who have followed this process, they say that whilst it's intra-party, it's an intra-party activity, the process by which a candidate emerges as, on behalf of the party, when not transparent, would challenge the viability of that candidate for a number of people who then vote. But something that we must also note is that Senator Ahmed Lawan has emerged as the candidate of the APC in that election. It doesn't decide currently who is going to emerge as winner ultimately come February 25. And that's what Nigerians should be looking forward to. Whatever, irrespective of where we stand on the divide, at the end of the day, the people will determine who will be their ultimate choice come February 25 as to the senator from that district.
Dr. Bati?
Okay, I'm a bit handicapped commenting on this. By my training and exposure, I'm not allowed to comment on judgments that I have not read. There's something called judicial review. But when you have to review a judgment, it's better if you have read the certified true copy of the rulings. And particularly in this case, we have a ruling at the level of the Supreme Court, 3-2. 3-4, 2 against. 3, led by Justice Nweze, and then the minority judgment. But if you look at both, you really have to read the judgment. So I can only go by what I have seen in the newspapers. But before I say that, it's possible for you to engage in contempt. In this particular case, the major error that people will commit is contempt away from the face of the court. It's called contempt ex facie curia. The second issue is to resort to emotions and react on an emotional basis and say, oh, the Supreme Court has done it again and all of that. Well, what people must notice is that the court of law does not take decisions on the basis of emotions or what you feel on the streets. They act strictly on the basis of the technical details presented before the court. Now, in this particular instance, what is the majority decision telling us? The majority decision, as reported, I've not read the judgment, so I'm just going with the media lawyers. What the majority decision reported is that the candidate in question, Lawan, that he took part in another primaries. It was in the presidential primaries of May 28, but it was part of the primaries on June 9, and that he won it and all of that. Now, there's also the other technical question about how do you present pre-election matters before the court? Is it by originating summons or by writ of summons? There was also that technical decision, and then of course the majority decided that Lawan is the fit and proper person who had won, but the minority, the two justices disagreed. They said that in the June 9 primaries held in Yobe North, that was not monitored by INEC, and that Lawan did not even participate in that particular second primaries. Well, the devil is in the details. And they said, no, it cannot be the person. So it's for lawyers to look at both sides, and it's good. We're going to have A.J. Owonekoko on the program later this morning, who may well have read, may have had access to the certified true copies of the rulings. I don't imagine that A.J. Owonekoko SAN will come and comment on a judgment that he has not read. But what are the lessons that we can take from this? The first lesson is that, look, our Electoral Act is being tested. Section 115, subsection D of the Electoral Act says that you cannot participate in two primaries. So what is this ruling telling us? Number two, we have seen the Supreme Court of Nigeria that people are abusing, and I advise those people to beware of contempt, especially. And after all, this is the same Supreme Court that gave victory to Godswill Akpabio in Akwa Ibom. This is the same Supreme Court that did mathematics in Imo State. Well, that was very controversial because even the great mathematician that came to the bench, Lord Denny, QC, master of the rolls, nobody could accuse him of turning logic on its head. But he came to Nigeria, we have seen our course doing mathematics at all levels, even when their lordships did not study mathematics. So the public has reasons to be concerned because, after all, the principal rule is that, look, when you deliver a judgment, it must be seen to be true and fair in the minds of reasonable and fair-thinking members of the community. So many Nigerians will think, oh, this is judgment that has been, manipulated and all of that. But people should not comment without reading the details. The work of the court is technical. If you want to engage in judicial review, you do it from a position of knowledge. What are the issues? What are the rules? What are the applications? How did their lordships apply the rule? Having not read the judgments, I can only state, what the facts of the matter are as reported. But at the end of the day, I don't think Senator Ahmed Lawan, can go about in a triumphal mood to say he's a symbol of democracy. No, Ahmed Lawan, you are not a symbol of democracy in Nigeria. Even as leader of the Senate of Nigeria, not many Nigerians are convinced that a man who came forward and told them right at the beginning of the assignment that he's a rubber-stamped Senate president can describe himself as a symbol. Well, there may well be some of your fans who think so, but I don't think so.
Real quickly, for this democracy to work, the judiciary must stand up tall. The judiciary must be seen as fair. The judiciary must be the hope of the common man. This electoral process has thrown out a lot. It has shown that you can eat your cake and have it. And the judiciary has to be careful because of the thoughts of the people. This is the second case. Two circumstances. The first one was Godswill Akpabio, participated in the presidential primaries, got a Senate seat through the judiciary. Second one, Ahmed Lawan. At first, don't forget we talked about placeholders. And Machina said, no, it's not a placeholder. He won rightfully. And that dragged on. But also the role his political party played. Because his political party didn't submit Machina's name. That was why Machina kept on going to court. He went to the Federal High Court, went to appeal court. He won there. And this judgment in the Supreme Court, which a lot of people have reasons to raise concerns about. Because the overriding judgment says the way it was issued, without oral evidence, originating summons. You talked about the dichotomy with written summons. I'm happy you talked about the fact that should somebody that participates in the presidential primaries also participate in another primaries, according to our electoral laws, haven't the electoral laws been broken there? Then let's go forward. A lot of us are not reading the dissenting judgment. And I think from now, what we should start doing is we should start looking and scrutinizing the judiciary and the Supreme Court and the people that sit on the Supreme Court and start reading a lot of dissenting judgment. The dissenting two justices on the dissenting judgment, Justice Jaro and Agbim, they both made their point clear.
Jaro and
Agim. In fact, they both said that 3 million naira should be issued as penalty to the APC for bringing such a frivolous case. 3 million naira as penalty,
no,
that's what.
Incompetent.
Yeah, incompetent case.
That's what it said.
3 million naira should be issued. That's what the dissenting judgment said. Should be issued against the APC for bringing this case to the Federal High Court. But you know the thing about the Supreme Court. Once you have a better vote than the other party, then the dissenting judgment is like it's never happened. The Nigerians will decide. Please, this also calls on Nigerians going to these elections. Ensure you win at the ballot. And please, politicians, stop banking on the judiciary. Because once they take it to the judiciary, once politicians can take their way to the judiciary, then our democracy is hampered.
But this is the apex court we're talking about. It's been established that the apex court is not infallible. Where is the apex court? The only appeal is to God. So that's the reality we deal with. But we have AJ Owonekoko coming on. He will deal with that detail. We'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll be talking to Abiodun Jalili Owonekoko, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Hey, Iskilu, báwo la ti fẹ́ sanwó mi? Farabalẹ̀. 1,000. We go wash plate tire o. Farabalẹ̀ now.
Madam, èló lówó wa?
Brother, na 3,005.
Màá fún yín ní owó pé káàdì Glo ẹlẹ́gbẹ̀rún 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Bring your phone.
Ha! 10,000.
10,000 people na wow. 1,000 naira credit. Now you dey turn to 10,000.
No. All of us don't know about Glo Berekete. Ní ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá nísìnyí.
Ṣé o ti gbọ́? Ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá ló máa gbà lórí iyekíye tó o bá rà sórí ohun ìpè Glo Berekete 10 times rẹ.
I told you. Na what go tell?
A day to remember in the history of our dear country, Nigeria. 9 wise men from the north who are governors came together on June 8th, 2022 to stand for equity and fairness in the interest of our nation, Nigeria. They buried personal interest for the unity of our country. They supported the call that power must shift to the south in 2023. They chose a Nigeria agenda. We salute our brothers and sisters in the northern part of this country who, in spite of their vote advantage, continue to propagate the unity of Nigeria by promoting rotational presidency between the north and southern part of the country. Let voters in the north follow the move by these leaders. Vote for power shift to the south. It's the turn of the south to produce the president in 2023. Let's vote Bola Tinubu for president for a renewed hope of better Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Supreme Court yesterday declared Senate President Ahmad Lawan as the authentic candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, for Yobe North Senatorial District for the 25th February general election. In the lead judgment on the case, upheld by 3 justices against 2, Justice Sentus Nweze had faulted the approach of the claimant, Bashir Machina, in commencing the suit at the Federal High Court, Damaturu Division, by way of originating summons and without oral evidence to prove allegations of fraud. But a minority judgment by 2 other justices upheld Machina's earlier victory. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, has described the verdict of the Supreme Court that affirmed him as a rightful senatorial candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North as democracy at work.
I didn't, as a person, as an individual, go to the Supreme Court to seek for a redress. But my party did, and my people, the people of Yobe North and Yobe State generally, and many political associates and well-wishers and supporters across the country and beyond, who showed interest that there has to be an appeal at the Supreme Court on this matter. So today, this victory is for all of us involved. I am the symbol, but the victory is for our party, the APC, and for democracy.
Joining us now is Abiodun Jalili Owonikoko, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, AJ Owonikoko, SAN. Thank you very much for joining us. Quickly, your take.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning. So,
always a pleasure to start the day with you on Arise TV.
Thank you. Well, quickly, your take on this ruling by the Supreme Court that has been, criticized here and there, and, what do you think it means for the democratic process? Do you agree with the view that has been expressed by some people that, the majority decision was arrived at per incuriam, and that the minority decision, will seem to accord more with the emotions of Nigerians?
Thank you very much. A word of caution to start with, which Dr. you yourself earlier alluded to. For a professional lawyer, commentary on judgment of court should be derived from informed position. And that informed position can only arise from having cited and perused the judgment of court. Be that as it may, questions about right to contest elective office in the public space, involves more than the interest of lawyers. Ultimately, it's about the people's mandate. So when the court hands down a judgment that can impact the outcome of the general election, we cannot shy away from having to interrogate the judgment. More so because it has implication for perhaps a lot more other cases that are still traveling their way up to the Supreme Court, based on the same or similar grievances. That said, what I take from the judgment of the Supreme Court is that it's a demonstration of the robustness of intellect of their lordships, that after listening to all the parties, the court was open to be persuaded, and the advocate successfully won majority of the hearts of their lordships. And some of the arguments also prevailed for those who did not succeed. A 3-2 judgment of the Supreme Court is a judgment that always has to be interpreted with carefulness and a sense of history. Because what is a minority judgment today may tomorrow become the majority judgment. That being the case, my understanding of what has happened in Supreme Court is that the court did not determine the merit of the case. So this point has to be clearly explained. When the court says that the mode of commencement of an action was improper, and that being a threshold issue prevents it from going into the merit of that matter, then the merit of the case has not been pronounced upon. But the effect of that pronouncement by the highest court in the land is, technically speaking, is also the determination of the merit, because that is the final bus stop. You have nowhere else to go except to God to reveal their judgment. So what has happened is that the majority of the court decided that the mode of commencement of the action did not validly activate the jurisdiction of the trial court, and that therefore it was not open to the trial court the Court of Appeal to have gone into the merit of a case that was not properly instituted. That would have been a strange attitude for the Supreme Court to take in a normal civil action. Because where a matter was wrongly commenced by the mode of commencement, either using originating summons or petition for writ of summons, the attitude of the Supreme Court has been that the form should not defeat the substance. And in such a case, oftentimes they will remit the case back for a hearing properly at the trial court and other pleadings. But this is not the case in election matters for two reasons. First is that election petition proceedings are in a special class of their own, regulated by special procedures, which are strictly adhered to. And therefore, there is not too much of room for the court to accommodate liberalism. The second is that election matters are time-bound. And so once you have exercised the 6 months, 180 days that the trial court has, and 60 days that the Court of Appeal has, by the time the matter gets to Supreme Court, it's almost impossible for the Supreme Court to make any remedial orders which will involve having to rehear the case. So that explains why a lot of people who do not understand the workings of the court system may want to fault or criticize the judgment of the court. And they will begin to cite authorities that apply in normal civil cases. Whether the majority came to the right decision or not, or the minority, which having not agreed with majority, decided to delve into the merit of the case, would prevail in a future case is in the womb of time. But I'm happy that the minority decision actually represents the correct position of the law if the merit of the case is to be interrogated, because they decided to look at the case on the merit and concluded that having regard to the facts, there was no basis for the APC to have forwarded the name of Senator Ahmed Lawan, Machina having emerged in the previous primary, and INEC having not supervised the second primary that was held, at which Senator Lawan emerged. So in terms of merit of the case, if people want to be fair, they should look at the reasoning in the minority judgment that actually decided the merit. In terms of the fate of the case, then we are bound by the pronouncement of the lead judgment of Justice Nweze.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Onikoko, for explaining that. But I'd like us to delve in, if you don't mind, into the judgment of the dissenting judgment. One of which, as you mentioned, was cited was the fact that, and as was mentioned earlier on during the analysis, was that the primaries, according to the Electoral Act of 2022, which is being tested for the first time, chiefly in these elections, is that you cannot contest, a candidate cannot contest in two primaries. In this case, Senator Ahmed Lawan had put himself up for the presidential primaries of the APC, and then, according to the APC, on the 9th of June, a runoff election for the senatorial primaries in Damaturu in Yobe North. What's your, going forward, for a future judgment, how does that play out? How is that interpreted for candidates in future elections?
Now, my understanding is that you cannot contest in two primaries at the same election. But you can contest in a primary if you lose and there is a rerun for another office. You can then put yourself up. What happened in this case was that Senator Lawan emerged from a second primary, which ordinarily should hold if the first one was, for any reason, truncated. So there is whether that could have been validly done in this time space we have, in this case, is a different thing. Because for the new primary, there should be 14 days notice to INEC. I'm not too sure that the time interval between when Ahmed Lawan lost the presidential primary and when this fresh primary of APC for Yobe North was held will have sufficiently provided a basis to say that there was a valid primary. And I think that's one of the things that their lordships who wrote the lead judgment, the minority judgment, took into account to say, look, a primary held without INEC supervision is not a valid primary. But that's going to the merit of the case. Unfortunately, that merit of the case is not open to be explored when the foundation of the suit already defeats its competence. So it is not correct to say that you cannot contest in two primaries. You cannot contest in 2 primaries at the same time. You can't be a candidate for presidential election, an aspirant, and an aspirant for senatorial election at the same time. How Senator Lawan eventually emerged as APC senatorial candidate for Yobe North, it's a different thing entirely. I'm not too sure that we can find answer to that in that judgment.
Okay, good to see you again, Amiable Essay and AJ Owonikoko. Happy New Year to you. And it's a pleasure talking to you.
Same to you, sir.
Yeah, just to even expound on what you said, the primaries of the APC was the 28th of May. This second primaries, this runoff, was on the 9th of June. And you talked about the 14-day window. So that's like 8 to the 9th. That's like about 11 days. So it doesn't even meet the threshold of the window. That's number one. Number 2, I also want you to even extend it beyond this judgment, because we've seen 2 occurrences, and that's why people are up in arms. I get all the technicality about the Supreme Court so that somebody, doesn't commit contempt of court and everything, but this is just for robust public engagement. These same circumstances who played also in the Akpabio case. And also, the political party stood strong on all of this, and in the end, favored Akpabio, just like it is, in favor of Ahmed Lawan now. And a lot of people, are up in arms. And the dissenting judgment also even said, awarded a 3 million naira penalty to the APC for bringing such an incompetent case. So if the dissenting judgment was even that hard line, then is it because the fact that once you have a numerical supremacy, that's the whole of it, in the Supreme Court? I mean, I just want to be clear on that. I'm as lay as anything. I would not say I'm a lawyer or anything, but also I understand societal trappings and how things goes out. And I know the Supreme Court is not Father Christmas. It's what you put before it, it acts on. Hello, sir.
I think I lost you a bit now.
Okay, so I'm just saying, please juxtapose these 2 cases and the fact that it was not even up to the 14-day threshold before the next primary was held, and also the fact that the dissenting judgment even gave a penalty of 3 million against the APC for incompetence in this case.
Yeah, all right. Let me just say, the 2 cases are not were not decided on the same principles. Akpabio's case was decided on the merit in terms of the jurisdiction of the trial court to look into how parties field their candidates. Lawan's case was decided based on, if the Supreme Court view is to be taken, on what you can call maybe error of counsel in the way they approach the court. Because after a Debies case, if you recall, the same position taken by the Supreme Court in Lawan's was what they took in a Debies case, because that one was actually a case involving fraud. The allegation was that the PDP candidate presented false certificates and all sorts of things. So there was practically no way you could have established that kind of allegation without pleadings being settled and witnesses being examined orally in court. In the case of Lawan, I do not recall what could have led to allegation of fraud with regards to purely legal complaint that this particular primary at which Lawan emerged was not a valid primary in the face of the law. However, you need to see the pleadings, you need to see the reliefs as couched at the trial court to see how the Supreme Court eventually came to make this a pivotal and decisive point to dispose of the appeal. So that explains the distinction between the 2. Ordinarily, even if the case had gone to trial, if the position of the Supreme Court was that what you are litigating is an internal affair of the party, then the court would not have been entitled to look into the matter, which I think is the ground on which Akpabio's case was disposed of. That said, we also have to let the public be aware of some of the technicalities of advocacy. It is normally said that when your case is strong, you stand on the merit of it. When your case is weak, you go after the law. When both of these do not help your case, you go for technicalities. Now, in election petition cases, there's no better platform at which this play out better than election, where technical rules are given teeth, because the court is in a hurry and is overburdened, so that every case that is slightly improperly constituted will be thrown out. So we must appreciate that a good lawyer faced with a matter of this nature, when you see that the merit of this case may not advance your client's cause, you look at whether the law which the court will have to apply without a motion will help you. If the law will not help you, then you look at whether there are technical infractions and defects in the case, which once the court is faced with, cannot but uphold. These are things that probably will not advance a normal civil action or a criminal case. But in election petition, as a matter of jurisprudence, it is allowed. Because people must understand, in election matter, law equity does not play a role. Election matter are based on the law, whereas in normal courts, equity that will have come to ameliorate the strictures and strictness of the law is normally called in aid in certain cases to save an otherwise doomed matter for the purpose of the merit of the case. Okay. So this is my take on what we have been facing.
I see a contradiction in some of your submissions, but this is not the forum to argue that.
Okay.
First, the language of the Electoral Act says primaries, within 14 days. But the dissenting justices, they said, INEC must be notified within 21 days. But that's not the question I really want to ask you. It's about your reference to jurisdiction, the technical point. Now, High Court practice direction says pre-election matters should be instituted by way of originating summons. But the Supreme Court, the majority decision was talking about rules of court, which says that you originate your protest, your appeal, by way of writ of summons. And that is the heart of the basic issue in this particular matter. I would like you to speak more to this issue of jurisdiction, because once the court raises the issue of jurisdiction, then whatever you build on it is a nullity, isn't so?
Thank you very much. And that's the point I was making. That's the point I was trying to make, a distinction between normal... am I on?
Please go ahead. Yes. I'm with you.
Yes. Now, in normal cases, even rules of court can be bent to accommodate overarching interest of justice. In election cases, which is sui generis, regulated by its own special proceedings, that is marked by strict application of the relevant rules and procedure. Once you fall out of line, you run the risk of having your case terminated without the merit being looked into. Now, in pre-election matters, as against election petitions, practice direction cannot supersede the rules of court.
That's it.
And rules of court will not supersede the substantive law. But in election petitions, and that's the distinction, practice directions are embedded in the Electoral Act itself. So it will ordinarily trump rules of court, which applies by default where there's a lacuna. So this distinction, a lot of our colleagues have to bear them in mind. So in the case of pre-election matters, once the Supreme Court has now said that your practice direction violates or is inconsistent with the rule of court, then you must read those practice directions going forward, subject to their conformity with the rules of court. Whereas you will not have a situation like this arising in election petition, because the practice direction in election petition have been ruled to enjoy constitutional and statutory flavor and made pursuant to the Electoral Act specifically to govern how election petitions are handled. Whereas pre-election cases are special civil claims having to do with matters preparatory to holding of general election. And so it is still the normal court that hears them, but subject to the rules. So practice direction of Federal High Court in election matter is not superior to, nor can it override specific provision of the rules of the Federal High Court, unless you can show that those directions are meant to address specific peculiar matters dealing with election matters. So from the moment the Edebe judgment was given, everybody, including the CJ of the Federal High Court, will appreciate the fact that every new action that has element of criminality will have to be commenced by way of writ of summons. Now, you see why I say it does not apply to election. Election petition can only be commenced by petition alone, not by writ of summons, not by written summons. So you can see the distinction.
All right, finally, sir, just to take away just a bit, because you're here, I'd like to use the opportunity to get your thoughts on a recent ruling by the High Court in Abuja restraining the president from postponing any further the date on the redesign of the Naira. And side by side, 3 governors taking the federal government to court, the president to court, asking that the president and the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to not phase out the 1,500 Naira and 200 Naira notes after February 10. I'd like you to get your thoughts on this, as there have been some contentions around the same jurisdiction. Do the courts have the power to restrain the president and the CBN governor from postponing the dates? Did you hear me, sir?
The audio is... Okay, I think I got up to the point of juxtaposing the suit at the Supreme Court and the other made in another suit at the Federal High Court.
Federal High Court,
yesterday.
exactly.
I got your comment up to that point. Now, you will see that whereas the case at the Supreme Court was initiated by states against the federal government in trying to activate the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, whether that is going to fly is a different thing. This case at the High Court was initiated by some political parties against CBN governor and I think the president, as well as some banks. The court having made that order yesterday, the proper thing for the court, for the other parties to do is to approach the court to have it revisited, because it was an ex-parte order. But I'm worried that political parties that just represent 3 or 4 entities will go to court and obtain an order, which in effect has pronounced upon the rights of customers of banks, contractual agreement between banks and their customers, that the bank must honor their order for payment against an instrument. And then the regulatory powers of the central bank. All of these were embedded in the order of the court that freezes the hand of CBN and the banks to honor their obligation to the customers of the bank. I'm not too sure how that will pan out. But the greater thing is that this is a clear demonstration that we have already brought the operating of the banking system into the theater of politics. I think we need to tread carefully. This was how June 12 was scuttled. We started having these funny orders from different courts in the pursuit of people's personal grievances. I think we must tread with caution. The matter at the Supreme Court, I don't know yet how it's going to pan out, but I think the hurdle for those who are filing the action is to satisfy the Supreme Court that there is indeed a dispute between those states and the executive member of the federal government, of such a nature that you can activate the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It is possible, depending on how their case is couched, that a case of this nature can be made out under Section 5 of the Constitution. Because the executive powers of the president is supposed to be exercised subject to the Constitution itself and subject to acts of National Assembly. The president's power under Section 23 of the CBN Act allows the president to determine the reasonability of the time given by CBN in trying to redesign Naira. But it does not include expropriating rights of people to their financial assets held in banks. This is where I have concerns about what is going on. I have my money in my bank. Trading in my old note is different from asking me not to access my money that has value that is deposited in a bank. A bank has an obligation to honor a request of its customer. There may be question whether I can take that one by cash or whether I can take it by banking instrument. But you cannot limit, especially when the law is clear. Falana SN has made this clear for almost 3 weeks now about the threshold of cash withdrawal allowed by the money laundering law. The idea of 10,000, 20,000 is totally at variance with the limit and restriction imposed on holders of bank balances to deal in their funds in cash. So these are some of the interesting things I believe events will throw up in the fullness of time.
Well, thank you very much, AJ Owonikukwueze, for your insights. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Ruth Sudiri to give us updates on Africa business activities. Stay with us.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Hi, I'm Pat Rankin, and they don't call me World Best for no reason. I only deal with the best. Be it auto or business, 100% claim is always guaranteed.
Welcome to world-class insurance services. We are Anchor Insurance,
where insurance truly works.
Nigeria has a problem.
A really big problem. The problem has made our country sick.
And we cannot remain sick for 4 more years.
Nigeria is sick with insecurity,
poverty,
rising cost of living,
and an escalating Japa crisis.
The good thing is,
Nigeria has a pathway to recovery.
And when we recover, our country will be safe.
When we recover, our economy will grow.
When we recover,
our nation will be stronger. We have to recover from this sickness.
So we can recover from lost ground.
Recover our time.
Recover our future.
And our dignity.
On the African continent. In 2023,
it is Nigeria time to recover.
And together, we can get it done.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
How are you doing? I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Arufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to our viewers. Yeah, so, well, I think everyone's heard by now that the High Court in Abuja has barred the Central Bank of Nigeria from extending the Naira swap program. It was brought forward by, I think, 4 parties: National Alliance, National Rescue Movement, and a couple other parties that came forward and filed these suits as plaintiffs, listing the president, the central bank, and I think about 27 commercial banks as defendants. And so that's in place. So much going on. 3 states, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara, have approached the Supreme Court to go to the opposite direction. Again, that's just an approach. It's no rulings or anything. No case has been heard yet, as far as I know. And so they're taking the CBN to court, saying that the Supreme Court should allow the extension to continue for I think at least another year. Then we got in Abuja, the EFCC, apparently, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, arrested a banker over hoarding of the Naira. Apparently about 29 million Naira worth of notes were not uploaded into the ATM of this particular bank. So that banker has been taken away into custody. So yeah, I mean, there's just a whole lot going on. Then also, Godwin Obaseki has lended his voice to the Naira note swap. He backs the CBN, saying that they should be allowed to pursue their cashless policy. And so, I mean, we're getting, again, as your last guest just said, this financial system now is now entering the realm of politics, to where everybody is now, you had Peter Obi on the Doctors This Day live show and all the others, everybody now lending their voices towards this. So, yeah, I mean, you know, but as of now, it's February the 10th. If you haven't swapped your notes in February the 10th, you really need to do so as quickly as possible. We're getting some anecdotal, you know, reports that, I mean, some ATMs are paying, you know, and people are, you know, gradually, but we need to be more, you know, widespread. So I think things are being kicked into gear this week. The Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission is pretty interesting. Ms. Saratu Umar, who's the head of the commission, says that it's got some master plan to where they want to reduce Nigeria's loan appetite by, I mean, their mandate, of course, is to, you know, promote investment and bring it into Nigeria. They want to, because the debt is a problem. If you look at, you know, remember that our debt service to revenue is what, 80%, you know? So, as far as them, whatever their master plan is, it just has to involve more FX coming into the country so that, you know, you've got enough of a moat, of a barrier to withstand external shocks wherever they come from. But you've got to sell more stuff. That's just the be-all and end-all of Nigeria's investment issues as far as attracting foreign direct investment into the country. We moved to South Africa, and a report from the Statistics South Africa showed that pretty troubling. What you're seeing is construction liquidations, that is construction companies closing shop, up by 32% in 2022. All other sectors as a whole, we actually saw liquidations go down by about 1%. So they were flat. The construction sector, because of the slowdown in economic slowdown, you've also got, and load shedding continues to come up over and over again. They are being impacted. So that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. I believe we're hearing from President Ramaphosa on the 9th, or he's going to have his a couple of days, I think Thursday, State of the Nation address. And then this is another troubling report from the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP. They just put this out, I think it was this morning or yesterday. Journey to Extremism in Africa, the Pathways to Recruitment and Disengagement. Very troubling stuff, but this is something I've been saying for a while. Look, so Sub-Saharan Africa is emerging as the new global epicenter of violent extremist activity, accounting for 48% of all terrorism-related deaths. That's practically almost half. And another thing, the Journey to Extremism research, again, I should have circled that, underscores the relevance of economic factors as drivers of recruitment. 25% of voluntary recruits cited employment opportunities as their primary reason for joining, particularly among the sample's male respondents. There was another very troubling one where for women that got recruited, say it was their husbands that brought them in. So there's also talked about the family factor and how that is there. But look, I've said it again, poverty is what needs to be addressed. If you don't do that, you're going to continue to see crime, you're going to continue to see violent extremism. And they also talked about the fact that state failure, the UNDP pointed this out, that state failure in providing amenities to citizens is feeding Africa extremism. So with COVID pushing, 7 million people into poverty, inflation pushing another 5 million people into poverty, Nigeria having 132 million people in multidimensional poverty, this is just going to continue to feed it. And politicians that weaponize poverty in order to buy votes, in order to use it to their advantage, they are part of the problem. That's why we're not investing as much as we can in education and so on and so forth. So I hope everybody reads this report. It's out there. Just download it and get into it. It's a big problem.
I mean, Rotus, and that's why it's quite very surprising that when you see it, state governments that didn't take President Muhammadu Buhari to court over ASU strike,
over rising poverty,
over cost of living, over inflation, over insecurity in their own states,
like Kaduna,
so they are the one taking President Muhammadu Buhari to court now over Naira, because why? People want to buy votes. And I keep asking politicians, what do you want? You have sucked Nigeria dry. What do you want again?
It's just amazing.
All the destruction and the problem with Nigeria today. Look at the UNDP report. It's because of you politicians sucking and killing the states. You have taken everything from it. What did Nigeria even do to you politicians? When are you even going to stop?
It's never enough.
And it's never enough. That's the problem.
These people, they own land overseas. Yes. They own businesses.
They stockpiled everything. Look at it now. And that's what's happening. And that's why this case has become political. I knew it was going to happen. I said it last week. It's going to go to court. People will try all sorts of means. They've tried to induce people to protest and things like that. Now they see that people are already getting money in the ATM card. Things are calming down now. Now they've gone to the courts. Last week they went to see the president. Now this is continuous. I think it's not a case of courts. The CBN has independence. The CBN act. They let the CBN do their work. Why are they so concerned about this matter?
Because of personal interest.
But it's always because of personal interest. People like me didn't store billions in my house. I don't have billions in my house. It's people that store billions in their house that they know that when they change the money, the thing will affect them. That's the ones that are doing this. But let the truth prevail. And let common sense prevail. That's just what I'm going to ask for. For those that are saying, they want to try to reduce our dependence on loan, it's a good initiative.
Okay, the NIPC.
The NIPC. Oh, okay, yeah. Because Nigeria is bleeding as we speak, Rotus, because of these same politicians that they steal from the Commonwealth, they capture the state to their own benefit at the expense of weaponizing poverty and bringing people down.
State governments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just speaking.
Yeah.
So at the expense of people, weaponizing this poverty. So that's just the problem. For South Africa and ESCOM and the economy going down, we've said they should liberalize ESCOM. Dr. Abbott, sorry.
State governments can go to court.
Okay.
So it's wrong to say that state governments cannot go to court. I mean, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, under Section 230 of the 1999 Constitution, has original jurisdiction over matters of constitutional interpretation arising from a dispute in terms of the interpretation of the Constitution between the federal government and the states, as has been proven in AG Bende versus AG Federation, as has been proven in AG Lagos State versus AG Federation, and that is an AG Ogun State versus AG Federation. And that is why in this particular case, the issue is that the only respondent is AG Federation, the Attorney General of the Federation. So what are the state governments asking for? Kogi, Kaduna, Zamfara. They want the Supreme Court to stop the federal government of Nigeria from pursuing this Naira redesign policy, from insisting on a February 10th, February 17th deadline. Okay, they will need to prove before the Supreme Court what damages their states are suffering as a result of this policy.
Isn't that a waste of resources?
Just wait. They will also need to prove to the Supreme Court how this is a constitutional matter that is requiring interpretation. But it is up to the Supreme Court. We cannot anticipate, what the details will be or what their lawyers will file. But they will have to put concrete case before the Supreme Court. But in constitutional matters, the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. That's number one. Number two is that in this idea or this whole furore over cash redesign policy, we have seen now that nobody in this country has a monopoly of madness. As one set of mad people are starting their own protests, another set of mad people are also coming out and saying we are here. And that is why you can see that 4 political parties, AA, APM, National Rescue Party, and is it Accord Party or so?
Yeah.
They've now also gone to the Federal High Court. And Justice Eneche of the Federal High Court has ruled that in this particular matter, the ex parte motion, an interim injunction has been granted until the determination of the substantive suit and the motion of notice on February 14, that the federal government should not change the deadline. Where is the conundrum? President Buhari has said they should give him 7 days to think about the matter. By the time the 7 days will expire, the deadline will have passed. Okay, so the matter is out there in court. So what you see now is Nigeria becoming, as I have argued elsewhere, a Fuji house of commotion.
Honestly.
Over, Naira redesign, cash swap policy, and all of that. But we should appeal to all the gladiators that what should prevail at the end of the day is the interest of the Nigerian people, not the interest of the state governors going to the court or the political parties going to the court. They are just messing up the politics. Because at the end of the day, even the governors themselves, okay, they've taken their case to the Supreme Court. They will still have to respond to the matter at the High Court, which is another matter. So we have all this confusion, 18 days to a general election. I mean, I don't know. We have a crisis of leadership, truly.
Crisis of everything.
Right, I just want to talk about the UNDP report. I think it's very important, where Africa has been highlighted as a terrorism epicenter. This is a call for beyond violence response to security challenges, a call for a holistic response to it. I'm glad that you've identified poverty, identified unemployment. We have hammered on this a number of times on this show in terms of unemployment figures. We don't even know the figures to begin to understand the problem and begin to respond to the problem appropriately. In the report, you mentioned that, the men polled, a number of them said one of the reasons is because of unemployment. Unemployment, no jobs, poverty levels in the country. If we don't provide employment, if we don't educate the people, we can fight and have a violent response, but we won't solve the problem of insecurity as long as there's an incentive for it, as long as you don't deal with the critical issues. And this is what around the world you do in matters of security. You don't just handle it in terms of in terms of extreme attacks. You also handle the root causes, and this is something that even the private sector must look at, because insecurity, as we've talked about, affects the economy in terms of even revenue, in terms of doing business. And so for the good of the nation, we can't only talk about security agencies. We can't only pump money into defense. We must pump money into education. We must pump money into ensuring that Nigerians have a better quality of life, even if it will continue.
Ayo, if the state governors are taking the federal government to court over insecurity, unemployment, lack of job, I will support them. In fact, I would like to run there with them. If that's what they took the federal government to court over, I will support
those issues are under chapter 2. The argument about whether state policy is justiciable or not is another argument.
I will support them.
Thank you very much.
It's time now for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in today's newspapers. Stay with us.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select Loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now.
It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
There is a huge difference between the relative experience of salary earners and those of business owners and entrepreneurs. Someone who has never had cause to set up a business of his, who has never had cause to source for funds, turn it around, pay salaries, pay back the loan, and still make profit cannot be expected to be hands-on when saddled with an economy the size of Lagos. Experience that hasn't curbed Lagos's traffic in 24 years of their reign. Experience that hasn't addressed Lagos's perennial flood. Experience that currently leaves us with over 2 million out-of-school children. The duo of Jandor and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabai.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Action. Yes, we start with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Well, all the top stories, you seem to have discussed them all morning. But we'll look at the stories here. Now, the lead story, court stops Buhari, CBN orders from suspending Naira redesign, extending cash swap deadline. Summons bank chiefs over alleged economic sabotage. Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara drag federal government, Apex Bank to Supreme Court. Want old notes to remain in circulation. 14 parties, candidates, chairmen threatening to boycott polls if CBN suspends policy. Alleged plans by top politicians to organize violent protests against Apex Bank. EFCC arrests bank manager over refusal to upload 29 million Naira new notes of Baseki back CBN. Abiodun engages central bank's officials over Naira scarcity. Yes, new dimension into the issue of this redesign Naira, which is yet to permeate every nook and cranny as regards its distribution. Now, for, of course, the ex parte motion there that has been obtained, given by Justice Eneojo Eneche, has given that injunction, stopping the federal government and the CBN from extending the cash swap deadline. And of course, the 3 state governors, Kaduna, Kano, Zamfara, have gone to the Supreme Court in their own case to ask the federal government, to ask the court to compel the federal government to allow the circulation of the old currency to continue. Now, do they really have a case? You want to say, why are the state governments going to court? Of course, some of these states have complained that a number of their local governments don't even have banks for people to go and exchange their old currencies. Are they doing it in the interest of their people or other interests? Well, I think the courts are there to be approached by aggrieved parties. In this case, the Supreme Court, the state governments have gone to court. We'll see how that pans out. Now, above that story, PDP, APC, Tinubu in 22.5 billion Naira swap for vote buying. Provide evidence of your claims. Ruling party fires back. Opposition party tells Abdul Razak blackmailing traditional institution won't save him. Well, this is an allegation by the PDP. Of course, the spokesperson, Debo Ologunagba, made that allegation in a statement yesterday, alleging that in Kano, the APC has 22.5 billion Naira old notes, which they are planning to change in that location and ship part of it to Lagos. It is an allegation. APC is saying, show us proof. Well, for those who are monitoring, whose duty it is to monitor the movement of money, central bank and the security agencies, this should also tickle their fancy. If it is smoke without fire, so be it. If there is truth to it, the security agencies and the bank CBN officials who are monitoring the situation should let the public know. Now, if we just move over to other newspapers, the Guardian newspaper, Naira swap, court restrains Buhari, CBN on February 10 deadline, while the Vanguard newspaper is reporting old notes don't extend February 10 deadline, court tells federal government CBN. And of course, the Daily Trust newspaper, Naira, fuel crisis could hamper Nigeria's election. That is the World Bank raising that alarm. Kaduna, Zamfara, Kogi, sue federal government, 14 political parties threatening poll boycott if Buhari must act to douse tension. The president said he should be given 7 days to solve this problem. We are counting, Mr. President, and we hope in the next few days, this problem will be over. We hope this will be the case. Now, the Nation newspaper, governors ask Supreme Court to halt CBN's Naira swap deadline. Now, if we just look at the Tribune newspaper, I will just keep the lead story there. We'll skip the lead story and look at Wike secures court order, moves to stop suspension from PDP. Well, if you flaunt anti-party activities like the governor has been doing against his own party, of course, you must be afraid of something. And, you know, if he comes out, that's Wike now, the governor against Wike, and openly declare for any presidential candidate, as he has been threatening to do since last year. Of course, the party will have to wield the big stick, but now it's gotten a court order stopping the party from suspending him from the party, the PDP he loves so much, and he doesn't want to leave the party. Now, the other story above the masses, Supreme Court affirms Lawan as Yobe North APC senatorial candidate. Well, the lawyers have spoken on this program. What can we say? Well, Bashir Machina, who became famous as placeholder, and he said, no, I am not a placeholder. But it seems the Supreme Court has put him in his place. But the dissenting judgment, 2 to 3, majority judgment 3, 2 justices had different ideas and they are very strong views. Well, but if you look at what they are saying. What you wonder how the lower court skips this issue of technicality. The appeal court did not see that, and the two justices of the Supreme Court who had dissenting judgment also did not see it. But again, Ruben, the way you put it, yes, the Supreme Court is final, but they are not infallible. That's how you lawyers put it. So perhaps we just live with this infallibility. We seem to be staring those of us who are not lawyers in the face. Now, we just move over to the foreign newspapers quickly. The papers in the UK, yes. The Guardian newspaper, giant earthquake killed thousands in their sleep. Buildings flattened in border region by war. Britain flies in aid and the rescue specialist. Of course, that's the Times newspaper. The Times of London is what I just read. While the Guardian, which we have on the screen, is catastrophic. Thousands died as earthquake hit Turkey and Syria. The Financial Times also have that story. Thousands dead after biggest quake in 84 years shake Turkey and Syria. Of course, there's a report that there was another earthquake this morning, reported by the Times online. Is reporting that another quake hit that region this morning. Of course, the impact of this felt as far as Egypt and other places. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
A very tragic incident in Turkey and Syria. As at the last report, over 10,000 persons were reported to have died. And this again writes, or writs large, to use that famous phrase, the conflict between man and nature. I mean, the worst earthquake in the history of that country for a very long time, since 1936.
Yes, 84 years ago.
Yes, and you had so many people dying. 7.8, magnitude quake at 4:10 a.m., first, and then later in the day, 7.7 magnitude earthquake, and people just going about their normal businesses, being caught in this conflict, perpetual conflict, since the beginning of the times between man and nature. And it's most unfortunate that this is the case. Countries and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, they've all called for international aid. And I think right now, Turkey needs that support, needs that humanitarian assistance to help the people of Turkey, the people of Syria, who are in distress. There's also an African dimension to it. The Nigerian Football Federation has reported that Nigerian players who are playing in the Turkish league, Ahmed Musa, Henry Onyekuru, and others, that they are safe. But we also remember our brother, Christian Asu, the Ghanaian, footballer, who was had to be rescued from the robbers. And he has breathing issues. He's been taken to hospital. So we identify with all the people who have been affected. But this is, again, one of those poignant reminders that as human beings, we excel, we do well, but we are like gnats in the hands of nature. And that is why all this talk about climate change is very important for us to remember that whatever man has been able to achieve, to tame nature, nature is supreme. And at moments like this, you are reminded of the vulnerability of man, in spite of man insisting that he's top of the human chain, the existence chain, as you were taught. As for the statement about the Supreme Court,
yes,
it's not me that said it. The credit for that goes to Justice Chukwudifo
No, I know.
Okuta,
yes,
who said, look, we're a final court,
yes,
not because we're infallible,
yes,
but we are an infallible court. But the only thing about the Supreme Court, whatever the case may be, is that only the Supreme Court can correct itself.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to appeal, you can only appeal to God.
Yeah, they said that we seem to be seeing infallibility in this.
I want to quickly say some things about Turkey and the earthquake. All those areas, Turkey, Syria, Iran, falls in a place called the tectonic ring of fire. It has long been known that earthquake might happen, even if it's been recessive over the years. But nobody knows when it will happen. But it has not been known that earthquake will happen. And there's some reports that say activities around, the tectonic activities around that place show that something was going to happen at some point. And the first earthquake that happens, the scale for measurement is called the Richter scale. If the first earthquake that happened is higher on the Richter scale than the aftershocks, then it becomes the main earthquake. If the aftershocks are higher than the initial earthquake, then the aftershock becomes the main earthquake in that epicenter. So in this one, 7.6 on the Richter scale, you've got aftershocks, that are lesser on the Richter scale. And it's just all around tectonic ring of fire. There's an African dimension to it, like Dr. Batia sounded off. Also, would like, people to reach out. There are lots of Nigerians schooling in Turkey.
Yes.
Please reach out to your family members, and if possible, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should set up a desk where they can reach out to these members and reach out to the Nigerians and see how they can evacuate them. So it's time for them, apart from the Nigerian Football Federation talking about, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, NITCOM, should set up a desk to start seeing how they can get people out of Turkey and advocate for getting them out. We need to go out here.
Okay. I hope that the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be awake to its responsibilities. But this is a humanitarian disaster affecting the whole world, not just Nigerians or Ghanaians. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Professor Ibrahim Aminu Dan Iya, the PDP chieftain and former special advisor to the Kano State Governor from 1999 to 2002. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Million hectares of arable land, over 200 million people, one nation. Home to Africa's fertilizer company. Dangote Fertilizer. Pure urea fertilizer. With one single-minded passion to feed Nigeria. Every bag is a potential, an aspiration to turn this green nation into the biggest food basket of Africa. Dangote Fertilizer.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand, oh. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
The state of Nigeria has tested our strength, our patience, and our endurance. But we keep our hopes alive because we know that a better Nigeria is achievable with a safe vote. 2023, the year we have been waiting for, has come. It is now time to break free from the 7-year-long sickness that has troubled Nigeria. It is time to choose to recover so we can heal our land, secure our people, mend our economy, access abundant jobs, strengthen the Naira, and reclaim glory as a true giant of Africa. 2023 is the year to recover Nigeria. Vote PDP.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. In its report titled 2023 World Economic Situation and Prospects, the United Nations says 17 countries, including Nigeria, will hold presidential and parliamentary elections this year, 2023, while 13 others will be preparing for national elections in 2024. According to the United Nations, the Nigerian economy will grow by 3% this year, despite the presidential and legislative elections that will hold this month. The UN also added that rising popular dissatisfaction in many of these countries, driven by worsening socio-economic conditions, including subdued wage growth, escalating cost of living, and food security concerns, could prove challenging for incumbent or new administrations. However, the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council of Atiku Okowa have vowed to fix Nigeria's economy with a focus on the how and why Nigeria needs to recover. Joining us from Kano to talk about the economic policies of the PDP leading up to the 2023 elections is Ibrahim Aminu Dan Iya, Public Relations Officer of the People's Democratic Party's Caretaker Committee in Kano State. Also a former special advisor to the Kano State Governor and Minister of Mines. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us, sir. Well, very quickly, one of the major issues we have raised on this program is that, yes, politicians come, they say, we will fix the Nigerian economy. And we always ask them, how? The PDP says it will fix. Other parties say they will fix. Okay. How will your political party, the PDP, go about it? Particularly with regard to all the issues we face. Inflation over 21%, unemployment over 33%, ways and means, we have been told by June, this year will be over 77 trillion naira. And your presidential candidate of the PDP has been accused of a man who will just sell everything. Is that the way forward? What exactly does your party intend to do, as you know it? Hello, are you with us? Hello? Mr. Dania, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead, if you had me. Please go ahead, if you had me.
Let me start by emphasizing the role of our party, the PDP, as regards sustaining Nigeria's democracy, because all we are saying is economic development and a democratic setting. To recall that before the 1959 election, or after the 1959 elections, looking at the political history of Nigeria, there was no party that was able to get a comfortable majority, and therefore there had to be an alliance between the parties. You could remember the NCNC-NPC alliance. And then in the Second Republic, we had what was then called the MPN-MPP Accord, because none of them was able to get a comfortable majority in the National Assembly and other elections. It was only when the PDP was formed, the largest political party in the country, that were able to get a comfortable majority in the National Assembly, and we were able to get over 20 states, over 20 state governors. And since then, for over 20 years now, we have been able to sustain democracy under this party because it is bigger and larger and more accommodating. When you go around the different wards and local governments, you can have the presence of the PDP in all the states, in all the wards, in all the local governments. And that is why it has been able to win elections all over. And this has been the first experience of Nigeria to have over 20 years of civilian democracy. And that is, the credit should always go to the PDP. And that is the first thing we should always remember and recall for our viewers to be able to comprehend and therefore appreciate the role of the PDP as regards sustaining democracy in Nigeria. And that is one. Two, we should look at looking at the economic policies of the PDP and therefore its candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. That is what we must emphasize, because the party is there, the manifestos and the programs are there, the agendas and so on are all there. But the most important thing is the driver. Who is the driver? How experienced is he? How articulate is he? Is he able to look at will we be able to look at the Nigerian economy, manage it, and find out solutions? The answer is yes, because Atiku Abubakar has been in politics for over 30 years. He has the experience. He was a governor. He was a vice president. He was a civil servant for over 30 years. And he came up with to solve Nigeria's economic problems, especially here in the north, where we have the worst case ever. Because the APC government has succeeded in making us poorer in this part of the country.
All right. Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, okay. Thank you.
I can hear you.
Yes, all right. Great. I'd like to ask you, what I mentioned earlier on was the how. We've heard a number of promises from all the presidential candidates, including your candidate. However, Nigerians are looking forward to more than a promise. We're in a dire situation. Dr. Bati has highlighted the debt profile of the country. We have an unemployment rate that we do not even have exact figures for. However, people are postulating much higher than we've seen in very recent times. Exchange rate is at an all-time high in recent times, and poverty levels are very high. What Nigerians are looking forward to is a leader who can pull Nigerians out of poverty and give a quality sense of livelihood. How will your party very directly address the issue of unemployment? Atiku has said that he would commit $10 billion to providing employment for women and young people in Nigeria. How? Where will this fund come in? How are you going to repair the economy?
You can make all these rhetorics. We have been hearing them, different presidential and gubernatorial candidates and so on. But the reason why we always emphasize on our candidate is because of his experience. You see, he is heading a very big business, conglomerate, employing a number of people. He has been able to manage his own company, his own economic empire, like this. And then we look at him as somebody who is more experienced than all of them, because none of them has ever been a vice president of the country. He has been the vice president. You could remember the privatization policy. He was the head of the privatization policy under Obasanjo. And you could remember the role he played. And then the issue of debt, you could remember the role he played, and so on. And That's why we accept the fact and believe that he will be articulate enough as he came up with his programs of economic policies that will be able to solve all our problems.
Right. So let me even go to the north, which most of these numbers are stacked up against. Most of the parts of the north are inundated with poverty, with unemployment, with insecurity. Right? So what will be done, by this candidate you're touting for the revival of the north in the first place? What will be done? Specific steps.
Like I said, this has been outlined in his programs, in his 5-point agenda, especially on the issue of economy. And like I said earlier, the North is the worst case as far as the APC government is concerned. Look at the issue of agriculture, which is the mainstay of the economy in the North. An ordinary farmer now, a poor farmer who uses hoe to farm cannot go to the farm because he fears the kidnappers and other looters and other killers. And this has seriously affected the economy of the North. In fact, about 80% of them, according to the World Bank reports, are living or surviving under the poverty line. And therefore, our own case is the worst case. And we believe, looking at the experience of Atiku Abubakar, looking at his articulation, looking at the programs he presented, he can be able to solve all these our problems. Look at the issue of fertilizer now. Over 20 or 30,000 naira to buy a bag of fertilizer. And this has been able to knock down agriculture in the North. And if one is able to knock down agriculture in the North, at the end of the day, the whole economy of the North is relegated to the background.
Okay, let me ask you. You talked about experience.
Yes.
You said the biggest asset that the PDP presidential candidate is bringing to the table is experience, because he has been a former vice president of Nigeria. How is that different from the APC people also saying that they are entitled? Must someone become president because he has been vice president? Doesn't that sound to you like a sense of entitlement? That's one. Second thing, your presidential candidate has been supporting this Naira redesign policy. Can you speak to that? Why he's supporting it? And, what his real position is, considering the fact that this has now led to a fight between governors and some political parties. Is the PDP going to join the suit that has now been filed in court by 4 major political parties to demonstrate fully that the PDP is supporting the position of the government?
You see, I cannot speak on behalf of the PDP in Nigeria. All I'm saying is what Atiku Abubakar said was that he supports this change, but the timing and the number of weeks and the number of days, that is what he's against. That's one. Two, like I said, I cannot speak on behalf of the PDP in Nigeria. Whether the PDP is going to join the suit or not, that is for the officials, my senior leaders to say something about that. But the issue is Atiku Abubakar supports the change. But like he said, the timing, the number of weeks and days should be extended. That's what he said.
Yeah, but the point about experience, translating into a sense of entitlement.
It's very common. Experience, is the best teacher. When you don't have the experience, how do you perform? It is his experience that has been able to give him the strategy to come up with a program it is his own experience that is giving him the strategy to come up with all these issues, with the 5-point agenda and so on. And it is a common belief by everybody. In fact, it's a universal statement that experience is the best teacher. Look at all of them. In fact, one important point we must emphasize here is that it is only the PDP under Atiku that can be able to fight the ruling party. If anyone wants to have a change, if anyone wants us to move away from this insecurity and economic problem and so on, if anyone wants Nigeria to be better, you must get a party that can be able to fight the ruling party. And the only party now, as at now, is PDP. That is the only party that can be able now, strong enough, organized enough
you don't think
to be able to fight the ruling party. And if one is insisting on other parties, it means at the end of the day, the ruling party will continue in the worst state.
You don't think this point about experience is what has brought Nigeria to this sorry pass? Because in 2015, Nigerians voted for experience. The man who knows the way, let him show us the way. And here we are.
It was a mistake. The experience should come up with focus, with direction, with program. You can't say I'm an experienced person, I know all this. What are your programs? Well, what is the direction? What's the focus?
Mr. Dania,
and when the man took in 2015, yes, he was there, he was this, he was this, he was that. But when he came up, there was no blueprint, there was no program.
All right, okay. Mr. Dania, you're talking about purpose blueprint. He did have a purpose. He had talked about his plans to deal decisively with corruption, security, and the likes. The same promises we're talking about that Nigerians want more of. You've now mentioned blueprint. You haven't really given us the blueprint. All you talked about is the merit of your candidate and the party. And what we really want you to share with Nigerians is the blueprint you just talked about. Your candidate, Waziri Atiku Abubakar, was chairing the National Economic Team as vice president. And so he must have a good grasp of the economy. What we want to talk about is that the economy, we're in a dire situation, economically speaking, in Nigeria. What are the things that he will do to bring us out of our economic woes currently? What would he do differently from what this present government has done beyond the rhetorics around, he's willing to fix? We want to understand how.
Okay, let me start by joining politics with the economy. That is to say, the political economy. Just like you have been hearing, Atiku Abubakar is a unifier. And we have to have somebody that can be able to unify everybody, integrate every Nigerian, irrespective of his ethnic or religious background. Instead of, everybody there, then it is that person that can be able to solve this problem. Because you have to look at the political solution and then match it with the economic one. The man is a unifier. In other words, he has been able to interact with different parts of the country, with different parts of this nation, and that we can be able to integrate people into making sure that our economic problem is solved. That is one. Two, like you mentioned earlier, you mentioned the issue of setting aside 10 billion, like you said. You mentioned the issue of integrating the youth and women into the whole thing. All these are part of his agenda. Everybody knows we don't have enough time to take each and every item of the 5 items to be able to explain.
Okay, you've talked about all of this, but you see, the question still remains, and I see where Dr. Bati was coming from. In 2015, what was being touted was President Muhammadu Buhari was a general, so he was solving security problem. But today it's become worse off. People can't go out anyway. The country has never been this insecure. And all the empirical data and facts are there to show it. From that time to this time, you have well over 30,000 Nigerians die under circumstances that could have been prevented. From farmers in Zabamari to other areas. What would your candidate do about this? And is this experience just enough? Because we depended on the experience of military prowess. In fact, I remember in 2015, leading up to the we say, oh, President Muhammadu Buhari, see what he did to the Metesani in the 80s. See the way he chased them into Chad. And they had to beg him to come back. He's going to root out bandits that way. But nothing happened. So what is your candidate going to do for the insecurity in the north?
Please, have you ever seen Muhammadu Buhari's program, his agenda? Have you ever seen his blueprint? You have never, I'm sure.
Yes, he had one. He had one. He had one. He had an agenda, he had a blueprint that was written out in manifesto. It was clearly stated and printed by the APC. It was a document I read over and over again. He had one.
He had one?
Yes.
And what did it do? I mean, what it contains?
He made many promises. I can't keep going through all of that, sir. But he made a lot of promises. He made a lot of promises of economic revitalization. He made a lot of promises of solving insecurity. He said he was going to build a social safety net.
You see, the mistake that was made was this. When you are searching for leadership, you always need the two, what they call integrity and the capability. And people emphasized on this issue of integrity, whether they are be able to understand it or not. But the issue is you want integrity and the capability. And we have now realized that the most important factor, the fundamental factor, is capability. The man has proved to everybody that he is not capable. Looking at the history of Atiku in governance, you have no doubt that he's capable. Call him anything, he's capable. And therefore we are sure he can be able to solve our problems.
Is it just by capability you are going to solve insecurity problem? What are the plans?
No.
Is it just by capability you are going to solve insecurity problem in the north?
He has already shown he can be able to do it. One, he has integrated so many people into his movement. Meaning that management means harnessing resources, harnessing human and natural resources. He has been able to realize this. And that's why he has been able to integrate so many people into it. So many scholars and so on, experienced people. And that's one. Two, he has been able to come up with programs, with agenda, with his own direction. And that's why we believe he can do it. But the other person you are, talking about, he has not been able to. Up to now, the APC government has no economic advisor. Who is he?
No, they had economic advisors. In fact, they even set up an economy management team that was led by advisory council that was led by Professor Salami. Even the current governor of Anambra State was part of that economic advisory council. Professor Chukwuma Soludo. They were part of it.
This should have come up since 2015. But the government started for years without any economic team, without any economic advisor. But this man that is willing to come up, Atiku, is already with his team of economic advisors, with scholars, experienced people, integrating every Nigerian.
Well, Mr. Daniya, at any time, the president of Nigeria has an economic management team, which is even recognized by the Constitution, led an economic management council led by the vice president. What this administration did was to now set up an economic advisory council. So there's never a time there is no economic team in place in Nigeria, at least since 1999. But I was going to ask you, you were a special advisor to the Minister of Mines, and this is a big problem in Nigeria, particularly now that Elon Musk is looking for lithium in Nigeria, and other people are focusing on Nigeria. What do you think we can do about our mining sector? Your personal opinion now, not party manifesto?
Yes, my personal opinion is we should emphasize on them. We are rich in that, especially in this part of the country. We are rich in that. And past leaders have not been able to tap the resources. When I was in the mines, I was able to lay hands on so many documents that explains all this. So I can assure you, if we can get a serious leadership who can be able to tap that resources and that will be able to diversify the economy.
No, you don't have specific personal opinions about licensing process, about all those mines in Zamfara, about, assault on our mining resources in certain parts of the country. Not documents. I'm not asking you about documents. I'm asking you your personal opinion, priorities that we think we can look at. Particularly now we want to expand the revenue base for the country.
This issue of license has been one of the bottlenecks. I think if the leadership can be able to make it easier for people to get the license, to be better. Because the license is a little bit difficult to get. But when it is made easier, then I think the problem there will be solved.
All right. Okay. So just finally, because we're about to go now, you're the Public Relations Officer of the Atiku Okowa campaign organization. I'd like you to just share with us, if there's one legacy that we can hold you to, should your candidate emerge as president, what's one legacy his administration would promise Nigerians?
Are you talking of Atiku as candidate?
No, I said that you are I said your candidate. Atiku, Abubakar Atiku, what's the one? I'm just referring to your candidate now because that's the only person you can speak for. So what's one legacy that he would be promising Nigerians? What's one legacy Nigerians should hold your party's candidate to?
You see, endurance and patience, that is the watchwords. Looking at his political history, because you can remember the SDP primaries, presidential primaries in Jos, early 90s. It was himself, the late Abiola, and Kingbe. It was agreed after the first runoff, after the first leg, it was agreed that he should step down for Abiola. When he stepped down and Abiola won the primaries, the governors of the SDP then refused to accept the suggestion and therefore prepared Kingibe. Atiku accepted and followed the trend to the end. And that shows how patient he is. And I think that should be part of his legacy. And secondly, you contested about 2-3 times. So we need a leader that can endure all this, that can be patient enough, that can be accommodated.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim Aminu Dan-Iya, for speaking to us this morning on The Morning Show. It's time for a short break now. When we return, Aaron Akerijola will be here with Global Sports Update. Stay with us.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband box.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
My name is Kashim Shetima. I'm an agricultural economist by training, a banker by profession, and now a public servant by calling. I was the governor of Borno State for 8 years. In the heat of the Boko Haram, we set up an agricultural transformation committee We crisscrossed the world and invested in the whole agricultural value chain. Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria in terms of landmass, 3,577 square kilometers. But the largest rice mill in Africa and the third largest in the world is located in Imota in Lagos. That is the power of ideas. Bola Tinubu is an idea whose time has come. Let us vote for Bola Tinubu to be the president of Nigeria come 25th of February. God bless Nigeria.
Hello, welcome to Able to Vote Guide. On this episode, we'll present to you a simple steps that persons with disability can follow in the accreditation process. Now, accreditation process is very vital and has procedure. But before I tell you that, my name is Jake Pele. I'm the CEO, TAF Africa. Let's get started. When a person with disability arrives at the polling unit, the first exercise that INEC expects of us is accreditation. You will have to go through two known processes. One, accreditation by your finger, or accreditation through other means for those without fingers. INEC is introducing, just like every other election, the device known as Bimodal Voters Accreditation System. For persons with disability, when you arrive at the polling unit, this device will be given to you. Those with fingers will place their hands on the device, and the device will accredit you and ensure that your identity is in correspondence with the identities in the device. Let me try and explain. Now, for those that don't have fingers, your facial identity will be taken and it will match with what is in the device. The moment all that process is done, you have been certified to vote in the process. Now, accreditation and voting takes place at the same time. So once you finish the process of accreditation, you then will be directed to vote. We will take time in our forthcoming edition to guide you through on the voting process. Follow us on our social media handles, but remember that this program is brought to you by TAF Africa, funded by the European Union, supported by our media partners.
Nigeria. Tunye beselu changu. Tinye botugi. Na changu. Tinye latiku. Makanche kwa makoganiru. Esinche. Esonyendu. Atikukua. Ngachio. Iya divama.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
My daughter-in-law, so how are you planning for my son's birthday? You have to cook for her. Do you people have ogirisi there? No. It's okay. Okay, let me call you back. Mama Chiji, okay. Hi, so wait the market. Please pack some ogirisi. Achi, Opo, Azumbasa. I am going to visit my son. My daughter-in-law. It's arranged, but you must use original red oil to prepare the soup. What? It's very scarce. I'll call you back. Mama Chijo, please include Isio Morocco. My daughter-in-law. Everything is now set. But don't forget that gold wristwatch I saw the last time I visited.
With 11 kobo per second calls to all networks, the only thing you run out of are things to say. Get a Glow SIM or dial *777# now.
That's it, Bobo.
There is a huge difference between the relative experience of salary earners and those of business owners and entrepreneurs. Someone who has never had cause to set up a business of his, who has never had cause to source for funds, turn it around, pay salaries, pay back the loan, and still make profit cannot be expected to be hands-on when saddled with an economy the size of Lagos. Experience that hasn't curbed Lagos's traffic in 24 years of their reign. Experience that hasn't addressed Lagos's perennial flood. Experience that currently leaves us with over 2 million out-of-school children. The duo of Jando and Funke have been investing in Lagos's economy for about 2 decades, running their personal businesses, employing people with track records of success. Lagos needs a breath of fresh air. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For updates on sports stories across the globe, Aaron Akiri-Jola joins us. Good morning, Aaron.
Yeah, good morning to you, Aya. Good morning to you, Doctor. Good morning to you, Rufai. Yeah, let's start it off with the earthquake in Turkey. And as it stands right now, the Nigerian Football Federation has actually issued a statement and said that every player, every Super Eagles player that actually applied their trade in the Turkish Super League are safe. As a matter of fact, I actually spoke to Ahmed Musa this morning, and he confirmed that he is safe, and several of the players there actually safe. Of course, they actually put out a tweet yesterday, actually confirming that they said that the Nigeria Football Federation is sad about the unfortunate earthquake, and the president has actually reached out to the Nigerian players based in Turkey, and they have confirmed that they are safe. So that's actually a good one there. And the one that got everyone scared was the Ghanaian superstar and also former Chelsea and Newcastle star, talking about Christian Atsu. As it stands right now, information just coming in about some few minutes ago from different sources in the UK, Daily Mail, The Independent, have said that he was trapped in the rubble and they were fearful that they might not be able to recover him, but they say that he's alive as we speak, but he's still trapped in the rubble. Of course, we heard that he plays for Antalyaspor in Turkey, and he and the sporting director in Antalyaspor were trapped in the rubble while several other players had been rescued. And we are happy to hear that right now that he's alive, and it's just a matter of time he will be rescued. So a very, very heartwarming news there, because that would have been quite a massive blow. But away from that to what seems to be a seismic shock, Manchester City at the moment are facing not an existential crisis, but they are literally in the eye of a storm right now, no thanks to their financial dealings over the years. And they said they've breached over 100 financial regulations, and a lot can happen, and that can actually not just impact the future of the club, but probably change the trajectory of the club. They've spoken about the fact that there have been several off-the-books payments, fake sponsorship deal from the Abu Dhabi group, the fact that their former coach, Chakwena Roberto Mancini, was being paid on and off the books. And so these are some of
we
the...
knew now. They were lying to themselves all this while. We knew now.
a lot has been said, and according to Sky Sport, they are saying that point deductions could actually be made, and several recommendations can be made to the board. They are talking about the fact that titles might be stripped away. They're talking about the fact that they might have to pay. But one thing is certain, this is not the first time, this is not the second time Manchester City find themselves in this ugly situation. They've gone against UEFA, and time again, they've always come out tops. They've always come out unscathed because they've got an army of lawyers that will go out there and literally marshal their case, fight their cause, and get the team back on track. Pep Guardiola has actually spoken and said that if he finds out that they lied to him, that he might pull the plug and actually leave the club. We'll have to wait and see how that one actually pans out. But let's talk about Leeds United. Leeds United have finally sacked Jesse Marsch, the American, and there were talks about the fact that there was massive reluctance from the American board in Leeds United not to pull the plug, but results weren't going his way. They were on a free fall, and it was just a matter of time. Last week defeat was just probably the straw that broke the camel's back. Away from that, Anthony Joshua will be back in the ring, and we are hoping this time around for good. Of course, Jermaine Franklin, 1st of April, the O2 Arena. Anthony Joshua will be back in the ring. A lot of people are saying that this is probably just another fight that Anthony Joshua should get across. But we've seen this happen time and time again. Andy Ruiz Jr. shocked him, and we are hoping that he can rise to the occasion. But the point is this. For Jermaine Franklin, he actually lost to Dillian White in his last fight, the first in 22 fights for the 29-year-old American. Anthony Joshua knows he will face a stern fight. And this will not just be one of those fights that probably will add to Anthony Joshua's numbers. He needs a massive bounce back, and Eddie Hearn knows this. And let's see what actually happens. 1st of April, the O2 Arena, certainly that will be in the offing. And finally, LeBron James is on the cusp of becoming one of the greatest players of all time. 36 points separates him and Abdul-Jabbar from that particular record to become the top player in the history of the NBA in terms of points accrued. And this is his evolution over the years. And his style has gotten dapper, and of course, he's become an icon over the years. But now the point is this. Tickets are being sold not just for a premium, but literally an arm and a leg. Usually, the Super Bowl that is coming up in a matter of days, tickets are being sold for $6,000. We are hearing that tickets are being sold for this game against OKC, Oklahoma City Thunder, tonight for as much as $94,000.
It's vintage. It's vintage. I mean, what else can you say? But just some updates. Fencho Tahiru Fencho, if you know him, sport journalist in Ghana on, what's it called platform now? City Group platform. He said we just spoke to Iago Katulu, and he confirmed that Atsu has indeed been rescued and taken to the hospital.
Okay, good.
He was found this morning after being trapped under the rubble for 26 hours. And, also the extent of injury is not immediately known. Keep us in the prayers. So he's been taken to the hospital, and this is a top sport journalist. And I think the Ghanaian Football FA also in their tweet also confirmed that. But real quickly, let me come to LeBron. But based on Manchester City, I mean, Aaron, we knew they were cheating all this while. It was all crystal clear. From the deal, the Robinho deal, we knew it was cheating all the way. Cheating, bang, bang. But now it's catching up with them. But, like you said, they've got good lawyers. They can come out unscathed. But it doesn't dampen the integrity. But if they are found guilty, probably, if Pep Guardiola needs a club, Chelsea is there. Anyway, moving on. I'd like to say this concerning LeBron James. It's an all-time high for him. And this is history in the making. And when history is in the making, that ticket alone can be a memorabilia for a lifetime. That I was there on that night, that LeBron James, equaled or surpassed Jabbar's record. And that's why it's been sold for the high. You talked about the Super Bowl. Every year, the Super Bowl is a cash cow. I'm not surprised tickets are sold for $6,000. Let me even shock you. The advertising revenue is crazy. As at 10 years ago, the advertising revenue for 30 seconds commercial of the Super Bowl was $3 million.
Yeah.
1 minute commercial was $6 million.
A lot has changed.
And a lot has changed. And it's gone up. And I can tell you that 30 seconds commercial is well over close to $6 million US dollars now. So that just shows you the height of the Super Bowl and the fact that people are charging $94,000 for a great night for the man himself, the wonder himself.
Whether it's still the greatest of all time is left to be. It's still being argued.
But he's in the pantheons of the great. You can't take that away from him.
Just a quick one on Leeds United. Despite the fact that the club admitted that he was quite instrumental to them remaining in the league last season, they still are doing away with him because, according to their records, he's the second most unsuccessful coach. Just David Gray is the only one who has done worse than or performed worse. This season, 8 matches in 32 games, abysmal. So now the outlook is for who will take on the Leeds job, seeing as they're teetering on or bordering on relegation, to see if they can remain in the Premier League this season.
You seem to be very optimistic that Anthony Joshua will bounce back against Jermaine Franklin. I guess you say that out of patriotism. But if you look at the record of the opponent, Franklin, he's 29.
Yes.
Anthony Joshua is 33.
Yes.
He has only lost just one
fight.
One fight in 22 fights.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to shock the world. So look at his level of confidence. What does that tell us about his determination to take on Anthony Joshua? But of course, naturally, as Nigerians, as Anthony Joshua as a kinsman, our sympathies will be on his side. But it would be nice to see him come back into the ring and then, re-establish himself as the true heavyweight that he is. The second point has to do with the point about Manchester City.
Okay.
Yes, you are right. In 2020, UEFA, imposed similar sanctions. And they went to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, that's CAS, and they won. What again is a guarantee, because you are saying, Manchester City, they have an array of very good lawyers. No, I think the details are probably different. They are only linked in the fact that both cases are about transparency and accountability. Managers' remuneration, players' remuneration, and even Manchester City, they are saying now that they are surprised. I think we should wait to see what steps they will take. However, the only part of it that I find surprising at my end is that part of the penalty could include expulsion from the Premier League.
Yes.
Now, if it goes the other way and you have Manchester City, being excluded from the rest of the Premier League, even if the case may take a while, you will be giving Philip to Arsenal fans and all these Chelsea.
I'm sure
who think that
Arsenal fans are already keeping their fingers crossed, hoping that the worst happens.
Other teams who came second under the titles they won already started picking up their chances as to them emerging as winners.
What we just want from you is Pep Guardiola to come and help us teleguide this,
Anyway,
Here we come.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, always a pleasure.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, Ojinika Upe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN. And when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So, it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vault it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business with Vault. Vault is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Hey. Vault is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Vault. By Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Vault is the answer.
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar.
Morning, Esther.
She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for them.
No phones at the table, please. Esther? I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Haruna, Bisi, Akman, Unduka, how will I want to do on election day?
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand for Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand for Tinubu.
People of Nigeria, make we all come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC, the party where show broom. Not forget now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote to, I broom I go put my hand for Tinubu.
10 years. I can't believe it. The time has flown so quickly.
I didn't join the station until 2014, which marked for me the start of a roller coaster ride covering all the major world news stories. From that time, I went to Ukraine to cover the start of the conflict there. There was the terrorist attacks in Paris. Fast forward to the Trump era, when I covered two major summits between Trump and Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, in Hanoi and Singapore. I also covered the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection in Washington, and more recently the conflict in Ukraine, which was a profound story for me to cover, documenting the tragedy of that country and portraying the lives of ordinary people affected by conflict in Ukraine. The reason why I enjoy working for Arise News is that, well, first of all, what you see on camera or in the studio is not just the product of my efforts, it's also the efforts of talented producers, directors, tape editors who assemble reports for me, all of those talented people in Lagos and Abuja. The other reason is that Arise News is very much a pioneering station, which means that everyone's making maximum effort to make things work. There's an excitement, there's a joie de vivre about Arise News, even almost 10 years on now. And thirdly, the main reason, I suppose, as a journalist is that I appreciate the trust that management and the chairman put in me as a journalist to assemble a story in my own way and to give objective coverage. In other words, they value my judgment to tell the story properly. So, for all those reasons, I enjoy working for Arise News. Here's to the next 10 years and beyond.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Ojiokwe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Janice.
I love the way you come alive. Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you this morning?
Fine, I'm good.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ayomi.
Good morning. Oji, you got the memo.
No, Ojinika.
Ojinika. You got the memo. So we walked in and saw that all of us were putting on a shade of blue.
Oh,
and
yes,
so when we walked in, I said, yeah, you got the memo.
Fantastic, we
Good
did.
to see you.
So
good to see
are
you
you saying you are all blah, blah, blue, blue, blue compliant?
Wow, woo. What does that mean, Dr. Abati? Wait, let him explain.
What kind of blue is yours? Which shade of blue is that?
There's a new shade of blue in town, and it's called what? Blah, blah.
Let's
okay,
Dr. Abati, please.
No, please. Do what you have to do.
I'm so tired. Dr. Rufai, good morning. How are you?
You are a wawulence.
It's wawu, right?
Wawu.
Not vowulent.
Violent. No, but this is good. I like this blue.
The Naira blue.
There's a Naira blue. Oh, yeah, the new
You know,
blue.
I like this blue.
Yes.
You know, when you have this blue, I personally, this is blue.
Very good. And the other one is it Bala and blue? Perfect. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In Turkey and Syria, the death toll from the 7.8 magnitude earthquake on Monday has risen to more than 4,300. The powerful earthquake brought down whole apartment blocks in Turkish cities and piled more devastation on millions of Syrians displaced by years of war. It is the biggest quake recorded worldwide by the U.S. Geological Survey since the tremor in the remote South Atlantic in August 2021. In the United Kingdom, Nigeria's former Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, was on trial on Monday, facing charges of exploiting a 21-year-old Lagos street trader with the intention of organ harvesting. The court heard that Ekweremadu illegally paid the trader to travel to the United Kingdom for a kidney donation to help his daughter, Sonia, who suffers from a kidney disease. The 21-year-old was allegedly offered the equivalent of £2,400. Jurors were told the alleged donor was unaware that his kidney was to be harvested. Ekweremadu has denied the charges. Under sports, the Ghana Football Association on Monday asked fans to pray for former Chelsea and Newcastle forward Christian Atsu, who has reportedly been trapped under rubble caused by the devastating earthquakes in Turkey. Conflicting reports emerged after initial news that the 31-year-old forward and his Hatayspor sporting director had been found.
It don't even matter what time it is. I will wait for you.
Finally, under entertainment, congratulatory messages have poured in for Temilade Okpeni, popularly known as Tems, who won her first ever Grammy in the Best Melodic Rap Performance category on Sunday night for her feature in Wait For You, the 2022 hit song by Future, also featuring Drake. President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday congratulated the 27-year-old Afrobeat star and praised her for showcasing her talent to the world and placing Nigeria in the spotlight of excellence.
It don't even matter what time it is. I will wait for you.
Well, yesterday we were clapping on set for Temilade Okpeni. We are so proud of her. And, you know, President Muhammadu Buhari, along with all of her female fans and musicians, have also paid, sent their congratulatory messages. But, you know, yesterday was fun on Twitter when I was reading, different reports, whether or not she's the first female recipient of the Grammy in Nigeria or Sade Adu. I don't know what your thoughts are. I personally think Sade Adu is Nigerian. She was born in Nigeria, and I believe she's the first female Grammy Award recipient.
Okay, so I differ a bit slightly. Yes, technically she's Nigerian, but when you talk about Sade Adu, she's often referred to as a Nigerian-born British singer. So usually she's referred to or she's honored or acknowledged as a British singer. She's been honored by the Queen, CBE, Fola Sade Adu, CBE. So I don't know if she really identifies with her Nigerian roots. And so it is quite difficult to, in this sense and in terms of identity, it's the person who usually or often determines how they self-identify. And in recent times, I mean, especially with her music, she often goes on as a British artist and has been embraced. And so for me, Tems is our first Nigerian Grammy.
That's where you Rufai.
No, for me, I think either way, they're both Nigerians.
Yes.
It doesn't make Tems more Nigerian than anybody. Sade Adu, was from here, I think from Ondo State. Yes, she might be in Britain and all of that. Yeah, she might hold a British passport, but to me, she's still a Nigerian.
She was born in Ibadan, specifically.
And that's what I see. I think most importantly, that should not go back and forth. The thing is, let's commend our stars when they do well.
Absolutely.
Just like I was happy too when another Nigerian was doing quite well, with his music in the 90s, Tunde Baiwu. That's how they tried to claim Tunde Baiwu and the Lighthouse family being British. But great people doing great things in this country. We celebrate all of them.
I think there's no need for any controversy. The Nigerian constitution recognizes dual nationality.
Yes.
So every Nigerian, you can carry two passports. It's not on record that Sade Adu has renounced her Nigerian citizenship.
Exactly.
So whether it's Sade Adu or it's Tems, to the extent that both of them identify with Nigeria, even if Sade Adu has dual nationality, whatever they achieve anywhere, we claim it.
Yes.
But where is the caveat? Every time we make the point here, when Nigerians get into the British Parliament, whether it's Kemi Badenoch or others, we say, a Nigerian is in the British Parliament. In Canada, we have many Nigerians, Attorney General, Deputy this, Deputy that. We claim them also. But the thing is, yes, we have the law in Nigeria that recognizes them, whatever they themselves identify with most. We have athletes all over the world. We even go to some international competitions. You see a Nigerian performing for other countries. The beauty of it is that this is a country, to quote President Buhari, of diamonds, of people who continue to excel everywhere. The only thing we ask for is that the Nigerian government at all levels, national and subnational, should create the enabling environment for the flowering of talent, for the encouragement of genius that we see, so that those diamonds can flourish and give Nigeria a good image. So congratulations to Thames.
Yes.
Congratulations to Shadi Adu.
Yes.
Congratulations to all the people who are making Nigeria proud.
A round of applause for all of them.
Long live Nigeria.
Long live Nigeria.
Viva Nigeria.
Well, all right. Let's continue what's trending. Discussing the controversy surrounding the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesign policy, which took center stage on Monday after governors of 3 states, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara, instituted a suit against the federal government seeking a restraining order to stop the full implementation of the Naira redesign policy. Subsequently, a federal high court sitting in Abuja compelled the Central Bank of Nigeria to go ahead with the full implementation of the policy and restrain the Apex Bank from extending the deadline on the use of old Naira notes. This is coming as 14 out of 18 registered political parties threatened to boycott the general election if the CBN extends the deadline for the use of old Naira notes.
Nigerian political parties will therefore in such situation boycott the elections, as we cannot guarantee the credibility of the election where people have access to illicit funds to buy votes and compromise the electoral officials. They are mobilizing and paying miscreants to protest who we claim to be civil society organizations. We now announce to you that Nigerian political parties have, after intensive deliberation and extensive consultation, passed a resounding vote of confidence on the Naira redesign policy and cash withdrawal limit of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We are therefore going to give the Apex Bank and the policies all the needed support to succeed. We are the ones fielding the candidates for the elections, and we are the same people saying we want the policy. Nigeria cannot afford to and will not listen to one candidate who believes he needs all the Naira in the CBN vote to contest for the election.
Well, in the meantime, a group known as the Pro-Nigeria Group on Monday trooped out in their numbers in unity to appeal to the Central Bank of Nigeria not to succumb to pressure by Nigerian politicians seeking to compromise the Naira redesign policy. The group converged at the Unity Fountain and ended the walk in front of the Central Bank headquarters in Abuja.
We are also here because we know that Central Bank has the powers, they have the full autonomy to force the banks in Nigeria to do the right thing so that the suffering can end. We don't want vote buying. We don't want people to suffer. This policy favors fight against terrorism. Yes. This policy favors fight against kidnappers. Yes. Fight against vote buying. Yes. This policy is good. Yes.
I am excited with Mr. President at what Mr. President is doing. For him to allow this to go on, he's doing a very, very, Mr. President, kudos to you. Don't allow anybody to bend you to the left nor to the right. We don't need no vote buying. If you want to do anything about money to your people during the campaign or whatever, send money to them through transfer. Nobody should buy vote. Let the will of the people prevail. We don't want vote buying. If you must do, transfer money. So for the very first time, I'm so surprised that governors could be so passionate. Everybody running down to Asoro are passionate. During first casting, nobody said anything. During insecurity, nobody said anything meaningful. ASU strike, nobody said anything. Why now the Naira swipe? All the people that have all the Naira in a bullion van or have all the Naira inside Sokawepi, your Naira will melt away and turn to ashes.
You know, over the weekend, that conversation was up about the governors, you know, talking about this whole Naira redesign policy. And you know that the killing that occurred in Katsina State, the president's home state, you know, I mean, we didn't hear people talk about terror and all of that. Even, I believe, Shehu Sani posted a tweet that went viral. He talked about the fact that the death toll had risen and no governor was talking about it. I really liked that last protester's comment, Rufai.
And I also made a tweet, don't forget that.
Oh, I did see. Send me your tweets now.
That went super viral. My tweet now has got over 1.1 or 1.2 million
send me that
views.
Yes.
And this was just the argument I made. The argument was, during ASU strike, governors didn't go to the president during 5 months of fuel scarcity. That is still going on. And I thought that the governors would have just even hinted President Muhammadu Buhari. By the way, apart from this Naira thing we came from, there's still fuel scarcity going on. Okay, President, what are you going to do about it? Nothing was said about it. It is this policy. Then you know it's been politicized. Then you know that it is curbing vote buying. Then you know it's affecting people. See, I've got no problems with governors going to the president according to the law if it's a genuine cause. I personally on this show supported Governor Wike when he took FG to court on the VAT issue. And you can see, even other state governors asked to be joined. Lagos State asked to be joined in that suit. And I support that suit because I don't still see any reason why you must take all the VAT to the federal when the states are creating the money in their own locality and they can't use it for their own people. That's a valid case. That's a very good, and I support them. Across board, you can see it. But in this case, you can see the governors going to court from a certain political party. Have you wondered why? From Kaduna, anyway, that was the governor that said it initially, that said there are some saboteurs in the villa. From Zamfara, APC state. From Kogi, APC. 3 APC governors go to court over a Naira policy that the CBN is supposed to have level of independence. How many people in other climes go to court over a CBN that's supposed to have level of independence? And we should watch it. You know why I say we should watch it? What are the politicians afraid of? Because they've tried every method in the book, gone to President Muhammadu Buhari, tried as much as possible to blackmail the CBN governor, even attempted to arrest and all of that. You know, did all sorts of shenanigans, incited people to protest and all of that, just because of politics. Because this is because it's going to curb vote buying. In all of this, aren't you seeing that it's only a certain political party that is making hulabaloo? Atiku Abubakar initially made a point about it, but now he said, no, don't shift the expiry date. Peter Obi was here talking to Dr. Abati on this, and he said he called for calm. The Edo State governor has also supported that. They support the CBN. Why is there only one political party that is up in arms as regards all of this? So we are not surprised what is happening. Civil society groups who are protesting, what we just want is free and fair election. Let the people decide. Should people even be induced financially for election in the first place? It's just because we've developed a bad society where politicians weaponize poverty and they give you money out of your commonwealth to vote for them to further destroy your life and take from you further. It's sad. We just want a better country. That's the argument.
All right. Dr. Abati.
Okay. Well, all these arguments over the Naira new notes, redesign, withdrawal, what you have just demonstrated is a place of the individual, of the citizen, in a policy-making process. You make policy, you execute the policy. At both ends, the theory is that there's a role to be played there, there is a voice to be heard there, in terms of how that affects the citizens for whom those policies are made. Where there is a disconnect between the first end and the polarity, you know, the polarity talks about the end of it, then of course you have this kind of situation. But what are the issues here? What we have seen is that there's no policy you will come up with in Nigeria. You will have disparate voices, disparate reactions. While some people are trying to support it, some people will oppose it. Some people will, in fact, be actively busy trying to sabotage it. And that is where I think, within that interface, the role of government, the role of the state is important. President Buhari has said it will take 7 days to think about it. Well, we've seen that the 7 days now, you know, some people are becoming impatient. Kogi State, Kaduna State, Zamfara State, they've gone to court. Well, we'll see what they come up with at the Supreme Court, you know. But all those states are APC states. So you have a situation whereby 3 APC states are fighting the APC government at the center. Pliny the Elder is right after all. Pliny the Elder told us that something new always comes out of Africa. So there's nothing that you will see in Africa that you should be surprised about. But while those 3 APC states are going to court, you have political parties, forum of political parties, forum of presidential candidates of political parties, who have also gone to court and who have secured judgment from the Court of Justice Eneche, Federal High Court Abuja, to say that the federal government is barred from extending the deadline and that the status quo ante bellum must be maintained until the determination of the substantive suit and the motion on notice. And the case has been adjourned till February 14, which I find ironic because that's Valentine's Day. They will put us in a difficult situation where we'll be monitoring the ruling of the court on a day when we should be involved in the hands of Cupid, and Romeo. But, talking seriously now,
yes.
This is just the way the cookies crumble. What we will appeal to all the gladiators is to just realize that all of this has implications for the election. Nigeria has a general election, February 25, March 11. Nothing must be done, either by those who mean well and those who do not mean well, to derail the process, to cause unnecessary tension. And that is where, again, the state comes in. The state has a responsibility that while citizens have the right to express themselves for or against, nobody is allowed under the laws of the land to take the laws into his or her hands, to cause mayhem, to breach the public peace, because reports indicate that in parts of the country, some people have been saying they will take the laws into their hands. They are not allowed to do so. And the responsibility for maintaining the peace is for government at both federal and state levels.
Absolutely.
That's my take.
Yeah. Okay, very quickly, and Dr. Rufai have spoken so extensively on this. The thing is that this also shows a part of this, which means that our government or our governors and leaders can be passionate about issues that concern the citizens. Oftentimes, this is the premise or the basis on which they're elected, to represent the views and the well-being of the people that they represent. Unfortunately, as has been highlighted, it's not often taken into consideration. Hence why Nigerians are wondering why this particular policy is put on the front burner when there are other pressing matters of national importance. You talked about the insecurity. You talked about what happened in Katsina State.
Yes.
We're still reliving what happened in Benue State and Nasarawa. Was it in Nasarawa and Benue State? We're still counting the numbers of the dead. We're still talking about the security situation. No governor has been able to take this matter to this level to demonstrate that their people are greatly impacted by this. It shows the heart and the minds of the people who are leading us currently.
Yes.
That if it doesn't serve self-interest, then it doesn't become a matter of priority.
Yes, Shehu San said because it's not money matter.
Yes, it is largely unheard of that in an election year, where the ruling party is, we have an extended petrol scarcity situation. We had ASU on strike. It means that, simply put, they don't take you seriously. And don't forget that the young people make up the most numbers in terms of the electorate. If they sat down without saying anything when you were at home languishing for 8 months, and none of them thought it important to call for a national emergency, yet because of money that personally affects them, they're all rallying up and suing people, then you should know the kind of people that represent you, and you should demonstrate that when it matters. Nigerians must demand better. It shows that they have the powers to actually run on. The Speaker of the House, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, said that they will reconvene if this matter is not sorted. So they can reconvene over a matter like this. But when the students were out, they couldn't reconvene.
Don't let us forget that the same Speaker of the House of Representatives that you just referred to intervened in labor matters. He intervened also in the ASU matter and summoned meetings. He's a politician. But persons who were with him, they were also politicians. Now there's a lot that goes on in government that is not in the public domain. If state governors had gone to Aso Villa to meet the president, it's not everything that happens in the forest that is reported in the public domain. However, I understand the concern of people. You're just looking at the optics and commenting on the basis of the optics. But you need to have a more comprehensive view of how government works to be able to understand what goes on inside government.
Okay. So we have to be careful. A quick rebuttal.
Can I just say one thing?
Gbajabiamila only intervened after the video went viral that we took care of him being in Harvard and people shouted that how can you be in Harvard doing a course when people are suffering here?
Okay.
That was after when he intervened. That was after when he intervened. After when he intervened.
That's the point. I just wanted to also mention
government works differently from how media houses work.
Okay. In this time, it also has posed a distraction to critical issues.
Yes.
On Sunday was the last day of the collection of PVCs.
Yes.
Because of this matter, we didn't talk about it enough. Remember that there was an extension, and there are still many people disenfranchised who didn't get their PVCs. We didn't talk about it. So it's a distraction as well.
All right, let's move on to take another story. Presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress held rallies on Monday to canvass for votes in the lead-up to the February 25th presidential election. Atiku Abubakar, the PDP flag bearer at the party's campaign rally in Benue State, proposed the signing of a peace accord between the Fulanese and thieves in the state to restore normalcy if he's elected. He also promised $10 billion to empower the youth in private enterprises.
I said we are going to allocate $10 billion to empower our young men and women with enterprises. Make sure that you don't go and make a mistake of voting for APC and return them to power again.
Well, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the party's campaign rally in Katsina State, promised to defeat banditry if elected president. He spoke on the back of the recent murder of 84 vigilantes by terrorists in the state, where he also pledged 100 million naira to the victims of the massacre. He thanked security agencies for their efforts and told his supporters not to allow the PDP, which he described the Poverty Development Party, to come back to power. I think this was quite commendable. 100 million naira to the victims, you know, very well said by the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And also Atiku Abubakar, you know, his promise to the, horrible situation that has been going on in Benue State, and promising to sign a peace accord between those two groups. I thought it was quite commendable. But also Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was also trending on social media for some of the comments that he made as well from that video. Dr. Batim.
Well, I think it's a good thing that the PDP presidential candidate talked about peace accord between Fulanis and thieves in Benue State, considering all the reports from that part and the front and back, aggressive conversation between him and the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, who thinks that the Fulanis want to come and take over Benue State. So peace accord, good idea. Preaching, peace in Benue State, where there is a lot of division between the autochthonous indigenous community and the Fulani settlers. But again, when a presidential candidate talks about peace accord, the question you will raise is, what happened to the two major peace accords that the political parties have signed under the auspices of the National Peace Committee, led by General Abdulsalami Abubakar? They've signed peace accord twice, but we've been seeing verbal violence, we've been seeing a lot of vitriol, we've been seeing complete disregard for the spirit and the letter of the same peace accords that they have signed. So he should be reminded of that, and he should be reminded that it's not just about calling for peace accord. Even the surrogates, all these, spokespersons suffering from verbal diarrhea and vomiting from the mouth in a reckless manner and heating up the polity, they need to be called to order. So it's not just ethnic, it's also in terms of how the parties operate. Now, as for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, yes, good gesture, giving 100 million to victims of the Katsina massacre. But did I hear something about the widows of widow and or widowers? Okay, let's leave that. I'm not here to teach English this morning.
You don't want to teach English this morning?
No.
Off your mic then.
Dr. Avati, our violence is too much. Real quickly, special commendations to Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes.
And I must have to say this about him because at times where people have been, affected by circumstances, he's always quick to donate. And special commendations. You see, when somebody does well, we say it as it is. He's done well. He's shown empathy. He said he's going to try as much as possible to fight, what is happening in the insurgency in the state, which is a good one, which I support. Yeah. And these are the issues I want our leaders to be talking about. But also, they should also put a pathway to resolving those issues. So, commendations to Bola Ahmed Tinubu for doing it, and commendations for the other ones he has done. Being there for people, making donations of his own money, and all of that to people. That aside, Atiku Abubakar also, in Benue State, saying he's going to try as much as possible to solve the problem. There are many problems on ground, multivariated problems, very multifaceted problems. At first, you saw Governor Autumn coming here the other day, saying that a certain group signed a petition against him and sent to President Muhammadu Buhari. He's been able to create a local, security force in his state, which some people say doesn't have the right to carry guns, which he says carry ding guns, which a lot of people are saying, oh, why is there a need for this? But he says he must protect his people. It shows that Benue, which is the breadbasket of this nation, is insecure. And you know what? That feeds on our inflation rate because we can't have farm produce. You also have farm produce was destroyed in Benue because of insecurity, farmers, not being able to plant and the likes. So Alhaji Atiku Abubakar must be able to find solution to these problems. And Bola Tinubu must be able to find a solution to the problem of insecurity in Katsina because these people affected are farmers.
Yes.
And once you don't have farmers planting, then it becomes a very, very terrible situation. I can't still get off my mind the picture I saw, and I've got traumatic stress disorder from it, the picture I saw of bodies of farmers in Zabamari being laid on the ground. I can't forget that picture.
Yeah. I'll just mention that earlier on.
This thing is already
I just wanted to mention what Atiku Abubakar said in Benue State. The fact that when he addressed insecurity, he also put that side by side with addressing unemployment and infrastructure. These are underlying issues, even in terms of tackling security. We spoke about that earlier and was very important.
Well said, guys. Well, thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rotu Sodiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. It's still the Arise News channel.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
My people, my name is Emeka. Mekus Kamat. Let me get all this motor. I don't learn my lesson. Somebody come buy motor for my hand, carry big money, come give me. Now when we get bust, now my eye open. I don't know say that 419 be. Now when EFCC babam, now they come bab me too. Now he make me the warn you.